Well, the regular season starts tomorrow. It's time to grade the Red Sox offseason. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and last night, Jordan Montgomery became an Arizona Diamondback, which, in my opinion, really sort of signaled the end of the Red Sox 2024 offseason and crushed the dream that we have had on this channel since the beginning of the offseason, which means there's only one more thing left to do, and that's grade this bad boy out. So, what we are doing in today's video is we're going to take a look at each component of the Red Sox offseason, give it a grade, and ultimately come up and try and figure out what we are going to grade the Red Sox offseason as on a scale of F to A, and I'm sure it's going to be, to put it lightly, a very interesting conversation. But before we get into that, we are going to be live on this channel tomorrow night, Thursday, right around 10 p.m. Eastern time to celebrate the start of the 2024 regular season. We're not only going to be watching the game together a little bit later than normal, we're going to be live from the beginning of the game all the way to the end of the game here, but we're also going to be celebrating hitting an incredible milestone on this channel of 10,000 subscribers. I promise you, you're not going to want to miss this live stream. Again, that is going to be tomorrow night, right at the start of the regular season, 10 p.m. Eastern time on this channel. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so I think the best thing to do here is to break this down into different categories, talk about each individual category, give that a grade, and then come back and give a cumulative score. And I think the best place to start here is grading how the Red Sox did in free agency, which, spoiler alert, I don't think you can give this free agency anything above an F grade. The Red Sox signed 3 individual players to a major league contract this offseason, totaling less than $50 million at about $49.5 total. Obviously, incentives push it over $50 million, but on paper, less than $50 million. You had Lucas Giolito, who was your star player, signed this offseason, which is crazy to say in its own right. On paper, this actually looked pretty good. The contract itself was pretty solid. He was going to be pretty decent, I think, numbers-wise for the Red Sox, and he was going to give you, most importantly, innings. Red Sox need innings in this rotation. Lucas Giolito was going to be a part of that, so on the surface, I can't really hate this deal all that much, but obviously, Lucas Giolito's not throwing a pitch for you this entire season. Now, is that the fault of the Boston Red Sox or because of this signing? No, I don't think so, but it's obviously going to hurt their grade a bit. Outside of Lucas Giolito, you got Liam Hendriks, who I personally think is a really solid value contract. You're going to be getting an all-star caliber closer for the price of a middle inning reliever, which is really, really solid. But again, if you're talking in terms of 2024, he's making absolutely no impact this year, or most likely won't make any impact this year. There is still his goal of getting back to the Boston Red Sox or back into major league games in the second half of the year, but I have a hard time believing that. I think it's more likely he'll be a full-time go in 2025, which again makes sense with Kenley and Chris Martin on the last year of their contract, maybe not even making it through a full year with the Red Sox, but still no impact on 24. And then the other one is Cooper Criswell, who did surprise a lot of people, and I think could end up being somewhat solid in the Red Sox rotation, but he's not even starting the year with the Red Sox big league club, right? He's starting the year in AAA Worcester. I think best case scenario, when you look at who the Red Sox picked up this offseason and what their impact could be, is Cooper Criswell ends up helping band-aid this rotation at some point this regular season. That's like best case scenario in terms of value and impact in 2024 for who you signed. There literally cannot be any other grade but an F. Maybe a null and void because there's basically going to be no impact from these free agents, but an F is very clearly the correct answer here. What's most frustrating about this free agency is that this could have so easily been a passing grade, right? If you had just signed one more pitcher, you would have been a, hey, this didn't work out fully, but at least you tried, so I'm going to give you a C or a D plus on this offseason. Instead, you come out here, you're not even really in the market for Yamamoto. You try a little bit, but you're not even a top 5 contender. Shota Imanaga, you do offer a bit more money of, but you're not willing to go above and beyond to bring him to the team. He looks fantastic this spring. And don't even get me started on Jordan Montgomery. This dude was sitting basically on your doorstep begging to get in, and he just didn't open the door. What are you doing? Jordan Montgomery, all he asked for was a decent deal. He wanted just a fair value, and you weren't even willing to give him that. It's absolutely unbelievable. They didn't even try to get a passing grade in terms of what the Red Sox were doing this offseason, and it has to be an F. John Henry came into the offseason with a set budget and did not allow his first-year CBO to breathe at all, and there is no grade that I can think of that is, this might be an F-. I'm unbelievably angry and frustrated with how the Red Sox went about with free agent spending this offseason, and we'll get to the public perception and all that in a little bit, but based solely on the moves that they did make and did not make this offseason, yeah, free agency is a big fat F. The second category to break down for the Boston Red Sox is obviously the trade market. How did the Red Sox perform in the trade market during the 2024 offseason? And I actually think this is a much different conversation than free agency, because the Red Sox, despite not having a truly massive trading offseason, were pretty active, and this is where most of the acquisitions came from. You had Isaiah Campbell for Luis Urias, Richard Fitts, Greg Weissert, and Nicholas Judas for Alex Verdugo, Nick Sandlin for John Schreiber, Vaughn Grissom for Chris Sale, and Tyler O'Neill for Nick Robertson and Victor Santos. And I actually think this was a pretty solid first trading season for Craig Breslow. A lot of these end up looking really, really good on paper. I think most of them look really good on paper. You trade a guy in Luis Urias that you probably weren't offering a contract to and we're going to end up releasing for Isaiah Campbell, who's scheduled to become a really big piece of the Red Sox bullpen. You end up turning 1 year of Alex Verdugo into a really good pitching prospect in Richard Fitts, who looks like he could end up being an impactful piece for the Red Sox at some point this season. You also get another bullpen piece in Greg Weissert, who's really been impressive this spring training and who's going to be a big piece of the Red Sox bullpen going forward. And you get that lottery pick in Nicholas Judas to just sort of sweeten the deal. Then you turn 1 year of Chris Sale into 6 years of Vaughn Grissom, and there could be some conversation here about whether or not the Red Sox needed Chris Sale more than they need Vaughn Grissom. But at the same time, too, we had been relying on Chris Sale to be the ace of the Boston Red Sox for years now, and he just never could get there, even in seasons where he did have a regular healthy spring training like the one he's having in Atlanta right now. I think despite the Red Sox pitching problems, this Vaughn Grissom trade will still end up working out in favor for the Boston Red Sox. Plus, you turn 1 year of control into 6 years of control in an area where you've had a revolving door for years now. So I do think that this trade still looks good on paper. And then you turn two prospects who I don't think we're going to have really any impact on the 2024 season or basically ever for the Boston Red Sox into Tyler O'Neill, who in my opinion is the X factor of this team this year. I think he could be that sort of Adam Duvall type player that the Red Sox had last year, but with more speed and better defense, which could be really, really, really impactful for the Red Sox. And then of course you turn John Schreiber, who again was replaced by Isaiah Campbell and Greg Weissert, into bolstering your pitching pipeline, something you really desperately needed to do. And so in my opinion, we look at all of these trades, there's a positive spin to put on all of these. Now, obviously, we probably won't know whether these trades were truly successful or unsuccessful until you see all of these guys play out, whether that's this year or in the next coming years. So this grade is going to be a bit incomplete, but looking at all of these on paper, just before we get into the regular season here, these all sort of look like wins to me. I would say because you can't figure out exactly how these trades are going to wind up, and a lot of these guys are poised to be pieces in the future as opposed to be truly impact players right this second, you can't give it an A, but I do think it's pretty close with a B plus because of just how efficient Craig Breslow was at getting in and bolstering areas of the team that you needed help on. You get youth in the bullpen that looks really good. You get 2, maybe even 3 really decent looking starting pitching prospects when you had absolutely none. You get Vaughn Grissom to hopefully shut that revolving door at second base a little bit, and you didn't really flip anyone who you were going to have be an impact player long term, and I think that really is a solid offseason for Craig Breslow. So while free agency was about as big of a fail as you could possibly get, I do think the trade market was successful. I think one other thing that's going to be marking down this grade a little bit is it felt like this was the offseason where the Red Sox made a big move, making a decision on some of these guys who are log jammed and bringing in a really special frontline pitcher or something like that, and that just didn't happen at all. So I think in terms of expectations, they weren't met entirely, but I still think it was really solid, which is why my grade is going to be staying right around that B plus range. And the final category here is something I don't normally take into consideration when we're talking about these offseason grades, but the Red Sox shot themselves in the foot so much publicly that I think we have to add public perception to this grading scale here, because this offseason started public perception-wise in the best possible spot, right? You had owners of this company coming out and saying words that now are going to live in infamy in Red Sox Nation in terms of Full Throttle, saying, oh, we need to add high WAR players to Rafael Devers. We need to get back to winning championships. You had Sam Kennedy going out there what felt like every other day and saying, no, we're here to win championships in Boston. Craig Breslow came out in his press conference and he said, oh no, there's no financial limitations. Sky's the limit this offseason. And everyone was sort of like, all right, I think this is going to be a big season for the Boston Red Sox. It ended with Tom Werner walking back all of his comments saying, no, you just misunderstood me. I never said anything like that. Sam Kennedy calling people, us, the fans, liars for discounting what they were doing this offseason if we didn't believe that they were legitimately trying to win a championship, and publicly coming out and saying that, yeah, there is a set budget, and guess what? It's even lower than last year by a significant amount too. I mean, that is a full 180. When I say they shot themselves in the foot, every opportunity they got, they absolutely shot themselves in the foot. I mean, they quite literally contradicted every single thing they said this offseason, and on top of that, called us liars for calling them out on it. Not to mention the fact that you come in here and you say, oh no, there's no set budget, and then to free agents, you sit there and you say, hey man, look, we'd love to sign you, but we got to make some payroll room to do that. To publicly tell that to a free agent is absolutely embarrassing. And so, in my opinion, normally PR really doesn't mean anything on this grading scale, but you have to include it this offseason because of just how terrible it was. This is a big, fat F. I don't know how you could give it anything else. It is absolutely baffling to me. We're sitting here one day before the regular season starts, and I still can't make a video without mentioning just how poorly the Red Sox were from a public perspective this offseason. The really only redeeming quality the Red Sox had this offseason is that they sort of admitted without actually admitting that they didn't care about the Red Sox as much as they probably should, right? By hiring Theo Epstein, not publicly announcing it, but just sort of letting it leak that he's here to help run the Boston Red Sox because they weren't giving it the attention that it was needed, is a big statement to make. And hopefully we come into next offseason, we don't have this conversation because Theo actually does make some difference in this organization. But for them to have to get to that point where they have to hire Theo Epstein because they just don't care enough about the Boston Red Sox to actually run it is absolutely disgusting, embarrassing. Everything they said this offseason contradicted itself. It's just absolutely gross. Big fat F. So overall, I think when you're looking at this offseason, the really only redeeming quality the Red Sox had was what they were able to do on the trade market. Again, even there, though, you're not going to really understand whether or not these were successful or unsuccessful until these players that the Red Sox acquired either reach their potential or fail to reach their potential. When you're looking at this entirety, you're looking at two big old Fs and one pretty decent B, which averages out to a D. So that's what I'm giving the Red Sox offseason. I'm giving it a D, and I think, to be honest with you, it's a very generous D, and I think a lot of you guys are going to completely disagree with even a D for this Red Sox offseason. Realistically, I'm just glad we're done with the offseason, that we can go into the regular season this year and we can actually have some conversations about what this team is going to look like and how they perform versus what the Red Sox front office is lying to us about now. But until we get to the regular season, let me know in the comment section down below, ultimately, what grade are you giving the Boston Red Sox for the 2024 season? Let me know all your thoughts on this topic in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Plus, you made it to the end here, you might as well subscribe. You also might as well hit that like button as well, as it helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you tomorrow for the start of the 2024 season, and of course, as always, in the red seats.